lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger alone. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger alone. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Up north on a strip of sandy soil, on a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger alone. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a Southern County home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. No.
Well, we are coming to our deputations. We have 4 deputations to be heard today. A reminder to the deputations as amended, procedural bylaws allow each deputation to speak for 5 minutes. I will advise when there is 1 minute remaining. So the first one that I have is Ingrid Stevens. Did I say it right? Gertz, okay, sorry.
Council person, Amy Martin, for this opportunity, and everyone. My name is Ingrid Gertz Stevens. My husband Derek and I live at 54 Blue Nose Drive in Port Dover. And lest you think that we are one of those newbie people, we were privileged to own...
Can you talk in the moment?
Sure. We were privileged to own the post office in Normandale for 7 years. And when I developed some heart issues, we decided to call Norfolk County home and built a house here in Port Dover. So that's come with lots of joys and some issues and some concerns, and one of them I'm going to speak to tonight. I'm not selfish in the way that I want a specific outcome. More, I want to speak to the frustration of the process that we have been through in the last, since October 2018. So the story goes a little bit like this. We have a home on a corner lot, 54 Blue Nose, if you know that property, and we expected that we would have 1 mailbox located on our property because all the other residents in our neighborhood have 1 mailbox. So one day I went outside and, much to my surprise, 2 more mailboxes were added to the corner of our property. We received no communication, no information, nothing verbal, nothing in writing, and there was never anything posted on our original plan, as well as in the subdivision. So that was a big concern. But I went through the process, and I'm sorry, I did fill out the form for an easel, but anyway, we'll just go low-key. I'm a retired principal, so I'm used to just... So basically, the communication started back in October 2018. So 2 additional mailboxes were placed on our property, totaling 41 slots. So those are not Blue Nose resident slots. There's only 11 that are. The rest are for the new properties that are being built on Newport Lane, totaling 22. So I went through the process, filled out all the Canada Post forms, contacted Canada Post, spoke to Connie Richardson, back to Greg Smith at Valley Engineering, back to Canada Post. You get the idea. If you've dealt with Canada Post, and some lovely people I spoke to, but it's a very frustrating process. I never really did get a clear message about who is responsible for the placement of the post boxes, except at the end of dealing with about 16 people, it has come to the conclusion that it is the developer who picks the site and Canada Post approves or does not approve. So there's the timeline. October 2018 was back and forth with Canada Post, climbing up the ladder all the way up to Tom Zadorsky, who is one of the heads. In December and January, I made contact with Diane Finley's office and spoke with Josh Malice, who is very, very helpful and very kind and gave me all kinds of really good information. And when you start digging around and going through some of the documents on Canada Post, and you go through some of the documentation from other counties and areas about the responsibility of developers, it becomes very interesting. Throughout all this time, I was in regular contact with people from Norfolk County, Devin Hunter, Gary Houghton. I contacted Toby Barrett's office twice for information. I received no response from that office. I'll leave that there.
You have 1 minute left.
Then I got smart, contacted Amy Martin, who set me up with Pam Dusling, and things started to happen. A meeting was held, decision was made to move 2 of the boxes. That has not happened. Valley Engineering placed a pad right at the corner, and it seems that neither county nor Canada Post, even though the developer was emailed about the changes, nothing has come to fruition. The boxes remain there. Here are my concerns. The developer is responsible for notification and communication of sidewalks, mailboxes. It is also in most locales posted on site plans. Who follows the developer? Who ensures that the developer is meeting county expectations? Our streetlights have been out for an entire year. We've received no trees, sodding. If it wasn't for the goodness of my builder, we still would not be sodded where the fire turnaround was.
Excuse me?
The corner.
Sorry, you've
Yeah.
come to your 5 minutes.
I'm done?
Yes?
Okay. So next steps, I hope that, given that little scenario, there are alternative sites in the subdivision, and my main concern is going forward. Who follows the developer? That's my question. Thank you very much.
Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to ask that question directly of staff, and I note that probably I'm putting you on the spot over there, but over the last few months when I corresponded with Ms. Dusling and again with Ingrid, it seems as though she's had a great working relationship with the builder. Staff have been diligent on answering her emails and trying to get her help, but what happens when the developer doesn't follow through on the requirements that they're mandated to do? What do we do as Norfolk County to help residents who now have, traffic for 41 mailboxes coming to their one corner? What happens when a developer doesn't follow through on sod? What happens when streetlights are out for a year and it's not necessarily Norfolk County who's responsible for that repair? What do we do to ensure that we're protecting our residents in a scenario like this?
Through the chair to Councillor Martin, you're absolutely right, not my area of expertise, but I will take this back and get the answers for you, and we'll communicate that to council through email.
I need a mover and a seconder for the, no? What? Just read it, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Through the chair, if there's no questions to the deputation, then what we should do is have a mover and seconder to receive the deputation for information and then move forward with questions to staff.
Councillor Columbus.
The deputy.
Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on. I now invite Lynn, sorry, something else? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to make note that we've had a deputation come in and the neighbors have come as well. And although that probably felt like a very fast process with not a lot of answers, if you're here for this deputation, I want to thank Ingrid for coming in and drawing attention to this. This is something that council is going to have to look at and determine what more we can do in a situation like this. And I will be in touch to provide any information I receive and pass it along to you. So thank you for coming.
Councillor
I also
Mayor?
just want to second what Councillor Martin had to say and thank the deputation for coming in. I think that is an excellent point. We spend so much time making these excessive site plan requirements, but what's the point of going through this process unless we're going to even uphold the requirements that we do impose on developers in particular? So I hope that we can come up with an answer as to what we need to do in the future to ensure that those obligations are met.
I have a mover, Martin, and a seconder, Taylor. All those in favor? That is carried. I now invite Linda Crandon, Committee of Adjustment, to the podium to speak for her deputation respecting accessory building height. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll go fast. So the Mayor and Council should have received an information package memo with regards to this, and Basically, the Committee of Adjustment is asking that council direct staff to include changes to the maximum permitted building height for accessory uses in the resort residential and the agricultural zones as part of the fall 2019 general zoning bylaw update. Through the consolidation of the former 4 zoning bylaws, changes were made that reduced what the zoning bylaw would allow for accessory building heights. And the committee believes that by increasing the height in those 2 zones, it would reduce the number of applications that staff and the committee have to deal with. It would also assist that the public and the development community by reducing the time involved and cost involved in processing applications by allowing these structures as of right. It would reduce the staff time and resources in processing the applications, allowing staff to focus on other areas rather than minor variances. And it would also reduce the mileage reimbursement for these 7 committee members and staff to attend these sites to do site inspections. So the committee's recommending that the height be increased by 2 meters in each of those 2 zones. So just the ag zone and the resort residential zone, and that would be for accessory structures only.
Go ahead. Are you done?
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Linda, for coming. I can't think of anybody better to bring a recommendation to council, and I think that it's great that our Committee of Adjustment is taking the initiative to find ways to make the entire process easier. So is there a motion specifically as worded that you have that perhaps our clerk could write down?
On the information memo that you would received in your package, there, on the last page, there's a recommendation to council, so it's worded in there. I can read it if you'd like, but it did come out to all of you in your information package memos.
Oh, that's fair. I remembered seeing it, actually. I just couldn't. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Bring it in with me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Through the chair to committee, I'm wondering if it's important to maybe defer it back to, or refer it to staff just for some information to report back to council. Just in the event, and again, I'm only saying this because I'm not a planner and I certainly am not trained in that in my area of expertise, and Melissa as well. So just from that perspective, again, I'm not sure, so I'm just throwing that out there to committee if they want to refer it to staff.
Okay, well, we actually included statistical data with regards to the number of variances and for accessory building heights received from year 2012 until May of 2019, and it was across the board for all of the zones. And we also included information on the average relief requested for each of those zones and applications for that same time period. So I believe staff has included that the information that council needs to make the decision, but again, that would be up to council if they want to. The committee did consult with staff as well in making these recommendations.
Oh, here it is. Yep, I can have it now.
Mayor Chop?
Well, I think that, you know what, we need to start moving forward with things, and so this won't be ratified until the next council meeting. So if we were to move the motion this evening and staff was to determine that there was some technical problem with the motion, then they could advise us before the next council meeting. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a need for further direction.
Councillor Van Passen.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just a question for the deputation. Did it used to be higher and it got lowered and now you want to put it back, or has it always been at this level?
Well, there were changes to the zoning bylaw through the consolidation process, and one example that I can think of is for the resort residential areas. Boathouses are an example that they were a permitted use, and the allowable height in the township of Delhi was 11 meters. And the boathouses have been removed and now fall under accessory structures. So there were a number of changes that kind of have caused some of these issues. And I didn't look at all of the zoning bylaws, the former ones, but that's just one example from the Township of Delhi zoning bylaw that I'm familiar with. Yeah, because of the water level.
Sorry? You have a motion? Put it forward, please.
Should we receive his information and then? Okay.
Go ahead. Receive is, first of all, I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Kopp and Councillor Rabbits. All those in favor? Any other questions? None? Moving on.
Okay, I'd like to thank council and mayor.
Thank you. Yeah.
Through the chair, the proposed recommendation within the information package, and I'm not sure if there's been a mover yet, but I can read it out for committee and the public. The recommendation is that council directs staff to include changes to the maximum permitted building height for accessory uses to residential uses in the resort residential zone and agricultural zone as part of the fall 2019 general zoning bylaw update, and that Committee of Adjustment recommends that the maximum accessory building height increase 2 meters in each zone to 7 meters from 5 meters in the resort residential zone and to 8 meters from 6 meters in the agricultural zone.
Mayor Chop. Sorry. All those in favor? I think we did already. That's fine. So we're just doing it over again. Sorry. I now invite Keith Hecker to the podium to speak to his deputation respecting building permits fees for solar panel installations.
Okay, quickly, we just need a seconder on that, and then we'll take the vote.
Sorry? We do? Okay, we need a Councilor Rabbits, yes?
I'd be prepared to second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor? All right, now you're okay, sorry.
And then
Yes.
if I just can add one thing, I just want to thank again the Committee of Adjustments for that excellent suggestion. And if there's any others that they have to bring forward in the future, that we're all ears for them.
Okay, Keith, here we go. You
Madam
have
Mayor,
5 minutes.
council members, good evening. My name is Keith Hecker. My wife and I own a house northwest of Simcoe on Wyndham Road 12, close to Nixon Road. We have always believed in being green, and through the use of energy conservation efforts, I'm proud to say we've been very successful dropping electricity consumption by 60% as compared to when we first moved into the house 17 years ago. All of the above mitigation efforts, of course, resulted in not only lower hydro bills, but also less CO2 emissions by our household. As we all know, climate change is real, and we all need to do our utmost to help stave off its most severe consequences. Rather than merely complain about our problems and expect governments to solve them for me, I prefer to take a proactive role. When the Ford government canceled 700 green energy projects shortly after coming to power last year, my frustration level grew exponentially. I knew I wanted to do something. For a long time, I had been considering taking advantage of the giant thermonuclear device in the sky through the use of solar panels. We all want to obtain things locally, and there is nothing more local than solar energy from panels on the roof of your house. Fortunately, costs for solar installations have dropped dramatically to the point where a viable system with some work being done by the homeowner now costs around $10,000 for a 5-kilowatt system. So, since the microfit program was canceled anyway, I started investigating the only other way to be hooked up to the hydro grid using solar panels, which is called net metering. Note that under that scenario, only rooftop solar is allowed. How it works is that basically if you produce more than you consume, you get a credit from Hydro One. If you produce less than you consume, you pay for what Hydro One delivers to you. Early in my investigation, I found that one needs a building permit from Norfolk County for solar. Okay, no problem. Much to my amazement, however, I found that the permit fee for solar is a fixed $500, unlike a normal building permit fee in Norfolk County, which is prorated based on the cost of construction. Since I would be doing most of the installation work myself, I estimated my cost to be $10,000. Under the conventional prorated system, my fee would have been $166, as opposed to the $500 fee that I was facing now. To put it another way, my fee was the same as someone doing a $35,000 kitchen reno. So that kind of took the wind out of our sails, as no one likes the feeling of being unfairly taken advantage of. For your information, comparable fees in London is $200, Woodstock is $100, Haldeman is $228. After much soul searching, however, I decided to bite the bullet anyway. I designed the system, applied for the permit, paid the fee, acquired the materials, did most of the mechanical structural work myself, and had Kevin Boyle of Carolina Electric of St. Williams do the electrical work. We threw the switch on July 25th, and I'm happy to say the installation looks great and the system is working well. So, why am I here? I'm here to ask Norfolk County Council to put solar installation on an equal footing with most other construction activities. In other words, a building permit fee that is prorated, not as a fixed fee.
You have 1 minute.
Amend bylaw 217-127, line 657 for rooftop solar. The county should at the very least not be hindering green energy projects. I'm not asking for special treatment, just equal treatment. And not for myself, but for future homeowners wishing to do a solar install. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Mayor Chop.
Thank you, sir. The other municipalities, so when you speak of London and Haldeman, they are fixed rate, fixed fees?
I believe they are, yes.
I mean, in many ways, I appreciate you're the idea of taking it on a prorated or a percentage, but then there's also the other option to lower it to a competitive
Yes.
rate with those other municipalities just to make it easier all around. I often find that's...
For instance, swimming pools in Norfolk County are $106, fixed fee, which to my way of thinking would be, there would be a lot more work involved for the building department to inspect swimming pools rather than solar panels.
Well, that's environmentally friendly too. So I guess the other challenge I have, I wish somebody was here from the building department to sort of explain this, is we just went through all these user fee approvals this year, and we had some pushback on fees, particularly in the building and the planning department, and they are all supposed to, per the legislation, be on a cost recovery basis. So I'm quite curious as to what the $500 worth of work is to issue a permit. So unfortunately, without somebody from that department here tonight, I think it's probably going to be tough to get you a resolution, but I think we could add this on to an upcoming council meeting once we're able to get that answer.
Okay.
Councillor Rabbit.
Thank you, Chair Geisens, and through you. My question to Mr. Hecker, and thank you for the deputation this evening. You did quote a bylaw, and I'd like for you to repeat the number of that bylaw you're seeking an amendment to.
2017-127, and this particular, the line is 657.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Columbus.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hecker, you mentioned, I take it what you said at the end there, that you're not looking for a reimbursement.
No, I'm not.
You just want to help other people going
Yes.
through this
Yes.
pain. Okay, so, yeah, you've answered my question. Thank you.
I need a mover and a seconder. Somebody, Councillor Rabbit, and Amy Martin. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
I wonder if we can direct staff to provide us with a report as to the rationale for why it was picked to be $500, and perhaps it should be something that should be reduced in keeping with what other municipalities are charging.
Is that what they're charging? I have no idea, so.
I'm just
Go
putting
ahead.
that on the floor as direction for a report.
Martin? Councilor
While we're
Martin?
at it, I would almost like to piggyback on that. I've had a similar email regarding some fees that don't line up with other municipalities, and I would also like if we're going to get some information, I would love information regarding sign permits and easements studies through the county, and I would like those with comparable details from other municipalities. Thank you.
Further? Councilor Rabbit?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I've got maybe one addition is it would be nice to involve our newly minted environmental climate change adaptation committee. I can't recollect if they're fully staffed, if we've appointed everyone to that board, but it would be nice to circulate specifically this deputation's comments to that body for review and feedback back to this council.
Okay. Councilor Rabbit was the mover and Councilor Columbus was the seconder. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to the next one. I now invite Brenda Himberg to the podium to speak to her deputation respecting Booth Harbor water. You have 5 minutes.
Mayor, Council, interested parties, my name is Brenda Himberg, and I'm a resident of Booth Harbor. In February of 2018, a report from the MOE was given to the Health Department of Norfolk County, Haldeman Norfolk Medical Officer, Conservation Authority, and the supervisor from the MOE. And in January of 2018, the MOE completed its final inspection after continued inspections and found the following. A long-time leaking water pipe meters away from septic systems was not reported, nor were records kept relating to the installation of sanitized parts. Water samples did not record of date, time, location of person taking the test, nor the results of those tests. That Scott Booth did not renew his operator certificate and in fact had not been certified since 2013. That in fact his counter staff was taking the chlorine residuals and completing the submissions of the microbiological samples, has not nor was ever certified, and that these samples were not being taken as required. Required lead samples had not been completed since 2012. Scott Booth was unable to retrieve any data relating to the testing from January to August of 2017 and December 2017 due to what he claimed was a computer malfunction. This was after assurances in writing from Scott Booth that he was in compliance with the MOE, and we know this is now not correct. Despite assurances from elected officials in July of 18, they would look into our concerns, we never had a reply. Residents were unaware the county had already been notified from the MOE earlier that year in February, and the PSI is far less than the MOE guidelines, dropping to a minus 37 PSI. It impacts residents. They can't shower, do laundry, wash hands, or conduct day-to-day activities. It's not only unacceptable, it's not legal. We have not even touched on the substantial cost to residents financially, emotionally, and the devaluation of their homes. The terms of the contract between the county and Booth indicated that a water main connection fee in the amount of $1,300 and collected by the county would be charged to those connecting to that feeder line on Front Road. No other resident was to have paid this fee. However, Booth collected $1,300 from the other 100 residents, collecting $130,000, give or take, for a connection fee that never happened. In order for the county to proceed with the proposal we received in April, it will require using taxpayers' dollars to buy back ownership, something the elected officials in December of 2004 gave away for free. The associated cost to each homeowner is up to $13,000 each. It's an unacceptable dollar amount, especially when considering the financial cost already incurred by each resident to date. The Clean Water Act was enacted in 2002. It was a result of Walkerton. 6 people died, hundreds were ill, many of them to this day. How has the MOE allowed this unacceptable situation to continue? How have they allowed Booth Harbor's development to operate without compliance? Why has it not ordered the county previously to take over years ago? When was the medical officer and the health unit going to be accountable for never advising any resident of the potential health risk? The county had an opportunity to apply for funding previously and did nothing. And when is the county going to make the correct moral, legal, and financial decision to do what is right after 14 years of doing nothing? What we do know is all of the above potentially has compromised the residents of Booth Harbor, especially the most vulnerable, the children, the elderly, and the sick. Thank you.
Questions, please?
Thank you, Brenda, for coming. I'm assuming you probably read the staff report that's been included for this evening. Do you have
I
any
didn't get it.
comments? Oh, you haven't?
No.
Okay.
I think there were 3 options.
I just
and
wondered if you had any comments on,
I hadn't read it, actually.
and any comments from the consultation period that took place with?
In April, I think, first of all, the consultant that was there, I have to say, didn't give some of the facts relating to it. Some of the facts relating back to lack of certification, no testing for lead. We weren't aware of that. We weren't aware that Kim was doing the actual testing. I researched that myself and found that. I think there has to be another way of ensuring that the residents get water, and sustainable water that's clean and healthy. And to be honest, I don't see any way around it except the county taking over. But I think there is a responsibility to the county. In 2004, what happened was the county was mandated to put in a feeder line from St. Williams to Booth's Harbor. Normally what had happened previously when they did the same with Port Row and going over to St. Williams is they put in the line, they put in new lines for the residents, they assessed an amount to the residents and applied for funding, and those I talked to in St. Williams indicated that the funding was substantial and paid for a good deal of the cost. I don't know that that funding is any longer available at this time, but in 2004 we had Liberal provincial and Liberal federal, and there was dollars to be had. And I really don't understand how the county elect at that time could have given the water ownership to Booth's Harbor Development. I cannot understand it, whether they were inept, they did not want to proceed with it, and it was, hey, look at me, I got rid of a problem and the county spent not a nickel. Booth's even paid for the contract that was signed at that time.
And just one more question while I have you. I know there were, I think maybe around a dozen homes that had a well put in. Were you one of the dozen there or no? Okay.
I'm not aware of any wells there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councilor Michele?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Simberg, thank you very much for your deputation here today. As you've pointed out, there has been a little bit of a history of perhaps a lack of commitment by some parties, and you're suggesting that there are some areas where perhaps the county could have performed better. What is it that when you say you believe now that the county should take responsibility, what would you say would be the end result that you would like to see if that were the case?
Well, Scott Booth makes he's not shy about saying he wants to get rid of the water. In 2017, when I started the petition, and some folks here started speaking up and saying, hey, we have a problem, we have yellow water, the issues have become, there's multiple issues. I don't see that dealing with Scott Booth, he's not going to put in a new water system. I've recently been in touch with the MOE and said to them, what are your short-term and long-term plans to make him comply? You sent me a letter, he's now complied. How long has he complied for? Will he stop taking tests tomorrow? Because obviously he stopped back in 2012 until 2018, and these records disappear. So I think the county eventually is going to have to take over. I think the assessed amount to each of the residents is far beyond what they should pay. The residents already have paid over $800,000 over and above billing to Scott Booth. And that bill includes his 97 trailers, water, bath, shower facilities for 245 boaters, and his year-round offices and Coast Guard. So that bill, and then we've paid another $800,000, and then he has, under dubious methods, collected another $130,000. And to be quite frank, I think we've paid just about enough. I understand we're going to have to pay a cost, but we need to look at what we've already paid. And don't forget, all of this is with some properties with no water.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Nothing further? I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Columbus, Councillor Michele. All those in favor? That is carried. Anything further? Yeah, I know we've got a report, yes. We have staff report PW 1955, Rebooth Harbor Water System Public Consultation. Jason, to present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to council. As you can hear from the deputation, this is an issue that's been going on for a number of years now, from when the first kind of inquiries were coming from the residents of Boos Harbor with regards to the status of that system. As a result, staff have followed up as per council's direction. We did engage an engineering firm in order to determine the feasibility of taking over that system and integrating it into a municipal operation. As it stands right now, the Boos Harbor development and the Boos Harbor non-municipal drinking water system is considered to be a private water system that is a customer of Norfolk County's water system. Therefore, we have a meter at property line and we sell bulk water to the Boos Harbor system, who is then responsible for the distribution to all of those residents within Boos Harbor. Essentially, I think it's pretty clear to say that the residents have a desire to have this issue addressed. And realistically, from a municipal operation, there would be capital upgrades required in order to bring that existing water system up to an acceptable municipal standard. That would be the standard that is established by the MECP, the Ministry of the Environment. And essentially, to do that, we have projected that it could cost anywhere between $900,000 and $1.3 million. 900,000 and 1.3 million. And in order to do that, this purpose of this staff report is to kind of gauge or gain some direction from council as to how this undertaking should be financed. Essentially, there are three available options as we see it in order to proceed. One being that Norfolk County installs the water system, and that would be funded out of the rate supported operating budget, for example, and those reserve funds, which essentially would mean that the existing 15,000 or so other ratepayers within Norfolk County would be basically paying for a new system to be installed in Boos Harbor. The second method essentially would be similar to the model of when we assumed ownership of the St. Williams Water Corporation, whereby it was a condition basically imposed by council of the time that we would take over the system, we would perform the required upgrades, and all costs of that project were then charged back to the affected property owners. In this case, it would be the residents of Boos Harbor. And that was effectively done through council passing a bylaw in order to impose those charges for recovery. And the third option available would be to proceed through the formalized local improvement process, whereby essentially we would petition, or the residents of Boos Harbor would petition to the municipality to have this issue resolved. And if there's a certain criteria, I believe it was, if there's 2/3 of the owners representing at least 1/2 of the lots in there that are in favor of it, we would proceed with that, and essentially it would be calculated out a charge back based on the work done to each of the affected property owners. So from a staff perspective, from a public works standpoint, we are amendable to doing something. We recognize the needs of this community that has a desire to improve the water quality and safety in that area, and we are just kind of looking for direction from council as to how we should be proceeding to move this forward. I will gladly answer any questions.
Councilor Columbus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Godby, which system would be the easiest and quickest to implement? Would it be option 1 or option 2 in the report?
Through the chair to Councillor Columbus. In the report, option 2 is basically what we did with St. Williams, and that is a much streamlined version of the local improvement process. That would essentially just mean bylaw being passed by council in order to charge those tax or charge their proportional share of the required upgrades.
Thank you.
Mayor Chop.
I'm just wondering if there is a cost in here. Like, is there a cost of buying out the current operator that has not been factored into this?
Through the chair to Mayor Chop, from my understanding, we would not have that as an obligation to the existing Mr. Booth and his system. It is a municipal road allowance. We have the ability to extend services through our own roads, and we have an existing water system right there. So from my understanding, that has not been raised as a potential concern.
I think that would probably merit, though, ensuring that we are within our legal rights to do that.
Brenda wants to come back. I'm not sure if I can let you or not. I'll leave it to, we can?
Let her, yes, I
Come
think
on.
that's great. Please. I have to say, of all the issues, of all of them that have come across in Norfolk County, this is the one that still perplexes me to a degree as to what transpired back in the day and so on.
It perplexes us as well. The one option that you've given, and I think I saw them a while ago, about the cost back to the ratepayers of Norfolk County. And I just would like to say, as taxpayers on semi-service lots, when I'm comparing our tax rate, we pay pretty much what a service lot in Simcoe pays, but we're on a semi-service lot. So we have to put in our own holding tanks and septic systems and what have you. We also don't have compost, we don't have sidewalks, we don't have boulevards, we don't have trees, and we have 2 street lights. So as much as people would have to perhaps pay a small portion to offset some of the cost, I'm also saying we also pay a proportion to supply everything else to the rest of Norfolk County. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the $130,000 that has been obtained through Booth Harbor by dubious methods. It definitely, we found a receipt that went back to 2005 and clearly states it was for a connection fee, which was the fee that was to be charged on Front Road. So I think we probably need to deal with that in a legal matter. We're not opposed to doing that. So I think that's all I want to say. Thank you for allowing me back up. Stay.
Go ahead.
I guess here's my challenge. I think it comes back actually to the other deputation. Do I think that this should in many ways be the responsibility of Norfolk County taxpayer? No, because a developer went in with a particular plan that was approved. People bought homes on that basis. We just had in fact, in Port Dover, where we, are going to have a land improvement, and they're looking at probably about $20,000 a property to extend the road and servicing in front of their property. So in most of those developments, each property is responsible. And in my view, this council finally took the initiative to say, hey, this shouldn't be the responsibility of the taxpayer because you're putting in a new home. This should be each person's individual responsibility. But then on the other hand, and this isn't the only matter, I mean, I've seen everything from grading issues be left unaddressed so far at developments to, I mean, you name it, with the mailboxes today. There's also, you know, a certain responsibility that we also have to ensure that these developers are upholding their end of the bargain. So hopefully we're going to get some more information on how we can better do that in the future. But in this case, so are you saying then if it was, you know, if council voted for option 2, that it would be, you know, shared on an equal basis between the homes? Would you rather move forward that, I mean, you can't speak for everybody, but I'm just curious.
I can't speak for everybody. I would like to think that council would try to get some type of funding or to support a portion of that payment. I think in lieu of the money that we've already paid, which is $1.2 million in overcharges and money collected, I think there has to be some consideration. I think it has to go back to, it's very unfortunate, in 2004 when the county signed this document. Instead of doing what they probably should have done back then and put in the services at that time, it's very unfortunate that they gave away, because I know the county has to pay to get back the ownership from Bruce Harbor Development.
Well, that was my question just now, and I think that's something we need to look into as well, as to what that cost is going to be before we really can make a decision here.
And to be honest, I'm very concerned with the Ministry of Environment. I'm extremely concerned that they let this go for so many years, and to let licensing lapse and not test for lead. I just can't believe that they fell down like they did.
Have you looked into pursuing a civil suit against the Ministry of Environment?
I haven't. We've been in contact with them on an ongoing basis. And I think the latest email was, I'll get back to you.
I think one of the things that I would be interested to see is we do have, she just started today, actually, a new in-house counsel. And I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be a good idea for council, maybe after the deputation sits down, but to talk about perhaps some direction to council, or to Paula, to be able to look in to see if whether there was some obligation on the MOE at the time that they failed to uphold, and if there's some options in that regard. So,
okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Michele.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's pretty clear that there are, in this particular case, and as the mayor alluded to earlier, this is a perplexing problem. And even, you know, with all due respect to the staff report that we have, there are many more questions than answers in this case. And I would recommend that we defer this decision until we get more answers to some of these, you know, important questions. You know, beginning with the role that the MOE has played in this whole scenario, and also with regard to option 2 as being a possibility. I've spoken with several of the residents in Bruce Harbor and St. Williams about this topic, and they've reached out to me. Many of those people are on fixed incomes, and these dollar amounts, just to get water that they really feel they've always had a right to, I think is just excessive. And I think we need to look much more deeply into this whole problem.
Further?
Well, with that, I'm just wondering if we might be able to provide some direction to staff, including Ms. Bootis, to sort of provide a report to council on the MOE's obligations at the time, as well as the overcharges that the residents have spoken about. And I guess finally to see, you know, whether or not there is a cost to buying Mr. Booth out.
Someone prepared to second that? Councillor Ravitz. I'm assuming that the mayor is also seeing the mover. Okay. Anything else? All those in favor? That is carried. So that takes care of that one, I guess. So we now go back up to verbal discussion, Mayor Chop.
Maybe take a
Sure you
Sort of-
can. Go ahead.
5-minute break here while everybody clears
We'll
out?
give you 10 minutes.
Perfect.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more.
When is it? We got 5, 6. We need Amy. There she is too. Okay. Going back up to number F, staff report PW 1954. Whoops, I got the wrong one. G, a verbal discussion, Mayor Chop, for the future of Port Dover. And away you go.
I'm nervous with Mr. Lennox here sitting behind me. Whew. So I guess first, I want to start off with a question to my fellow council members and see if anybody knows the answer to this question. How much beach does Norfolk County own in Port Dover? 66 feet. Not a whole lot. I think most often it's the things in everyday life that we are most likely to take for granted. The beach in Port Dover, walking your dog in the morning and taking in the views, the rich cultural past of Port Dover, the incredible, charming little town that Councillor Martin and myself and nearly 7,000 of your other constituents call home, and that thousands of others visit every year. I think we all know that Port Dover is a pretty special place, and it's cherished by visitors and locals alike. And make no mistake, it is also one of the biggest economic drivers in Norfolk County. But I fear we are at a critical moment in the history of Port Dover. And when I look around at the incredible little community that I now call home, I know that one bad decision made by this council not could, but will forever change the face of Port Dover as we know it, because it will set a dangerous precedent for every single development that comes after it. I certainly don't want that to be the legacy I leave behind, and I hope that none of you do either. I think that this council gets one shot at preserving this most critical asset to Norfolk County and one shot only. And once the waterfront in Port Dover is developed, it is gone, and it's gone forever. There is no do-over, Dover. What I find most perplexing about the current situation that we find ourselves in is that despite all of the overregulations we face in Norfolk County and the unnecessary layers of red tape, we actually don't have a waterfront development plan. We don't have a collective vision of what the people that live there actually want. And yet when I look at nearly every other waterfront town in the province, from Honey Harbor and Midland to Kingston and our larger urban cities, even Brantford has a plan for their waterfront along the Grand River. So I printed out a highlight of the number of municipalities. That was just a sample that Megan pulled off in a few minutes today. This is what I know. The water is what people come here to see, and because we all know that being near or in the water makes you happier. It's why I moved to Dover and why many others have moved there as well or visit there. I know that Norfolk County owns about enough beach for maybe a dozen people to stand on in the future. I know that this is a unique situation in Port Dover where an extremely narrow group of people, again, there are a few families that own and control the majority of land in Port Dover, land that has been held for generations. But it has come to my attention that it is very likely to change hands in the near future as these families are all beginning to undergo their succession planning. Through some conversations with those landowners, I know they will eventually sell off their land to realize their years of hard work. But I also know that they are special people that do not want to see the face of Port Dover changed forever. And the decisions that this council makes and how that could impact the future of Port Dover weighs on them heavily. I think it's rare and admirable that a family even wants to engage with a municipality to ensure that the future of Port Dover is protected and that that is not the legacy that they leave behind. I also know that we were shown a secondary plan at one point that talked about land for commercial box stores on the perimeter of Port Dover. And that blows my mind because I think if history has proven itself over and over again is once you start adding box stores, it destroys little small towns. And yet here we have 10 minutes away from Port Dover, plenty of box stores if that is what people want to travel to and shop at. I also know that we have multiple major developments that are about to take place along our limited river frontage. And what concerns me most is these developments are not being brought forward together. Each one is going to be coming forward in a piecemeal fashion with no coordinated effort. And in one case, at least, asking for massive concessions along the way. And I know that before this council should even consider any applications for development of any kind, we need a concrete plan because we were each elected to be the guardians of our treasured assets, and this is one of them. I personally ran on a platform of being pro-development, but let's be clear, I'm not pro-development at any cost. I like the size and scale of our community, and when I learned of a water deficit that had been allowed to grow over the past decade to an almost unconscionable level, there was no hesitation that imposing a moratorium was what needed to be done. I thank Council for their support because it was unanimous at the time. That was a tough decision. And while we do have a few disgruntled developers on our hands, I think it is clear that the people of Port Dover themselves applauded your decision. And while that decision was, I think, in many ways a no-brainer of a decision, make no mistake, you are about to hear more about it come budget time. Because even without adding new staff members, we are faced with inflationary pressures, wage increases, and other costs rise year over year. And to pay for those costs, we need a larger tax base. And when we look at our budget last year, it started at 8.6%, and I believe it was somewhere around 4% reduction as a result of growth. We are not going to see that this year with Port Dover as one of our major contributing sources to that growth. In fact, we're probably not going to see it for a couple of years. So while our decision was applauded by Port Dover residents, I think we all need to be ready come budget time that there are going to be some other disgruntled constituents in Norfolk County. That was one of the lemons that this council inherited. But I think we all know the saying, add tequila and salt, or make lemonade. So councillors, I think we've already made the tough decision to impose a development moratorium in Port Dover. And while Mayor Hewitt and I are actively working on a solution to that crisis, in fact, I have a motion to bring forward later that Mayor Hewitt is also bringing forward this evening at Haldeman's council meeting that will benefit both communities. It's an $18 million job, and the job is not going to happen overnight, not anywhere near. We are a long way off being able to resolve that issue. So my suggestion is this, that we use the next year, that year or year and a half, while no one can build anyway, because there is a moratorium on development, that we need to make the lemonade in Norfolk County. We need to make the lemonade out of this situation, and we need to come up with a concrete collective plan, meaning a multi-stakeholder discussion that involves the landowners in Port Dover, those critical families in Port Dover, the developers themselves, residents of Port Dover, and to determine what it is that they want. What is the aesthetic that we want? What are the public spaces that we want? How will we ensure continued public access to our waterfront? Because that's what people travel here to see. And let's make sure that every single person in Port Dover has a say in how their community is planned. And let's come up with a cohesive design. And then when the water situation is resolved, we will be ready to make that vision become a reality. This, I think, is actually this council's first chance to stop being reactive and actually be proactive in a situation. So, knowing that we have some developers and others chomping at the bit, how do we do this? Well, I've come to learn that under Section 38 of the Ontario Planning Act, I have also provided you with some material. Municipalities are granted the power to impose an interim control bylaw that can put a temporary freeze on land uses while a municipality is studying or reviewing its policies. The maximum amount of time that an interim control bylaw may remain in effect is 1 year from the passing of the bylaw, with the possibility of 1 year extension. Also, this is a unique bylaw in that no notice or hearing is required prior to its passing, like many of the other bylaws that come before us. I provided a couple of articles for each of you as well from Burlington that just most recently this year actually imposed a similar interim control bylaw on their development in Burlington. In one of the articles I provided to you, the mayor of Burlington said the following: "Given the number of applications we have received and those we know are coming, all of which are wildly above the provisions in our official plan, new or existing, we needed to go ahead with the bylaw in due haste," she wrote. This interim control bylaw is a temporary measure, not a permanent one, that will afford us the time and opportunity to do the more detailed land use review work needed on our vision and policies. We need to undertake, in their case, the mobility hub study, so we are not simply reacting to applications, but setting a policy for them. With the exception of the mobility hub studies, I would say that all sounds pretty familiar to what we're facing in Port Dover. So with that, I would like to make a motion, and the motion is as follows. That our new county solicitor, Paula Boutis, be directed to prepare an interim control bylaw under Section 38 of the Ontario Planning Act within the Port Dover urban and waterfront areas for 1 year, with a maximum extension of a second year to be ratified at a special meeting of council prior to the September 10th planning meeting. And that our CAO, Chris McQueen, and our Director of Planning, Shannon Van Dalen, be directed to prepare and present to Council a preliminary framework for a multi-stakeholder community engagement plan to study and update the Port Dover land use policies so as to ensure that any future growth aligns with the vision that Port Dover residents have for their community.
Okay. Mayor Chop? Mayor Chop. Martin. Councillor Martin, you're on. Thank you.
Second the motion.
Second the motion? Seconder? Mayor Chop, you moved it? Yes. All those in favor? Any questions? Sorry? Yeah, go ahead. Councillor Columbus?
So,
Van Passen?
to the mayor, what I understand is there's no public input into this motion, is the way I'm reading it from our Burlington Council also. It's basically, put the motion on the floor, it's approved. There's no public coming to the podium to speak to it, only through the public process of having a stakeholders meeting and that type of.
That's correct. I mean, I recognize it's, in any other situation, if we didn't have the moratorium on water, I would say it's a bold move. I think it was far bolder in Burlington for them to do that than it is in our situation right now. We can't develop anyway. So we were given this horrible situation that this council had to face with putting a moratorium on development. And I know there's frustrated developers, there's frustrated people that were planning on building a home. But at the end of the day, until we resolve our water situation, nobody can do anything. And right now, I feel like things are being rushed through. And if we are about to grant multiple additional stories over our official plan, you can rest assured that that will repeat itself over and over in Port Dover over the coming years. And so I think that it's important for this council to take a step back, to use this terrible situation with the water in Port Dover as a benefit to the community, because it's going to give us a chance to really create a plan for the future.
Councillor Van Passen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to sound like the old guy talking about the old days, but one of my last duties as a councillor for the city of Nanticoke, we redid our official plan, we redid our zoning bylaw, and the part we didn't get to was the need that we approved was to go and do a secondary plan for the waterfront and the lakeshore or the riverfront areas, and that all got lost when we got merged into Norfolk County. So we're only 18 years behind schedule to get that done down in Dover, but it's not that it hasn't been thought about before, but it's high time we did it. So.
Okay. Councillor Micheli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think just to add to Councillor Van Passen's comments, this is an opportune time to do, as the mayor is suggesting, to be proactive rather than reactive. So I would fully support this.
Councillor Columbus.
Yes, the secondary plan was mentioned. Was there not a secondary plan completed for the community of Port Dover some time ago?
Go ahead.
Well, that was my comments. I mean, one of the comments in that secondary plan was in terms of the commercial development on the outside of town. And while some of that has been approved, I think we have to be really careful about how much we're going to approve in the future. I mean, it's you know, we have that along the Queensway, and, you know, we're already seeing what that's done to Simcoe. So is that what we want in Port Dover? Those are the types of things that I think residents should have a say. Is that what they want, or would they rather drive 10 minutes to, you know, preserve their town and do their shopping in Simcoe?
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really hate to throw additional shade on the planning department, but I feel similarly in the sense that I wish there wasn't such haste to sit down and look at these projects only to put them into the queue on a holding provision when we have this unfortunate situation that our council has adopted with water. I want it to be known that I'm in full support of development. I'm in full support of waterfront development. I'm in full support of calculated strategic development across Norfolk County, especially on our most precious resource in Ward 6, which is waterfront. So to that, I'd have to support this and say let's make lemonade, because it's our job to be the guardians of the precious resources and community that we've been elected to sit in, and I know that this is very important to the residents in Port Dover.
Okay. It's been moved by Mayor Chop, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favor? That is carried. Now, I guess we can move down to communications, motions, and notices of motion. There are no communications, motions, or items for today's meeting. General announcement. There are general announcements from committee and or staff. Mayor Chop.
Sorry, Councillor Garsons, Chair, if I could just add on to, if council might sort of indulge me to present a subsequent motion to this, which is just really furthering all the discussions that we've had with Haldeman in regards to the water capacity issues in Port Dover. So I don't want to delay. We want to get this resolved. We want to get more water flowing into Port Dover and move ahead with things. So the next motion that I would like to present on the same topic is that Norfolk Council directs staff to work with Haldeman County to explore options, costing, agreement principles, phasing, timing, and operating parameters for the extension of water services to Norfolk County and report back by December 6th, 2019. And again, this motion was also moved, I believe, this evening by Mayor Hewitt at Haldeman County's council meeting.
Okay, so you're moving it as well, again, Councillor Mayor Chop?
Yes, sir.
Seconder? Martin? Any other questions from anyone? All those in favor? That is carried. So we are moving to other business. Are there any councillors or committees or staff that want to put something forward? Is there anything they want to talk about right now? Go ahead. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, just so I'm not confused, is this what we have now decided to term as general announcements? Oh,
that's
okay,
that's basically what I've got here, general announcements.
Okay, thank you. That's just not indicated in our agenda package.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention that over the Labor Day weekend, the town of Port Rowan and Ward 1 held their annual Bay Fest celebrations. It was extremely well attended, very successful, and I just wanted to commend all of the volunteers who make all of that possible, because there are hours and hours and months of preparation and planning for that. And despite the rain later on Sunday night, all of the events went off very well, and it was a huge success.
Councillor Columbus.
Well, I too wanted to get a commercial in with respect to the Delhi Fall Fest, which is commencing Friday, September 6th through to the 8th Sunday. And the opening ceremonies are Friday evening. Then there's, and I should mention too that because of the reconstruction of King Street in Delhi, major thoroughfare, we've had to move the route for the parade, and that's going to be taking a different route. And the the most of the activity now will be taking place from Church Street to Eagle Street on Main Street because of the reconstruction of King Street also. So there will be a beer garden. They're going to have 4 bands playing on Saturday. There will be kiddie rides and also a lot of food booths. So welcome to Delhi for the Fall Fest. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Chair Geisens, I would just like to say that Seiza Yoga Studios' new location grand opening is going to be Friday from 6 to 8. As well, I would also like to remind everyone that since it is back to school now, to please be safe on the roads as you're out and about. The buses are going to be dropping off the little ones, and just be careful.
Councillor Rabbit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. And this involves our Public Works team. I don't want to throw a curveball at you there, Mr. Godby, but I would like an update on Holden Avenue construction. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, I've received quite a few phone calls and emails regarding either silt and folks' water lines, not receiving a message in time that the construction was to commence or water would be shut off. And now I've received some correspondence about the concern with the school children loading up onto buses and where they're to go during the construction. I was just hoping for an update for those watching at home that may not have received a letter in the mail that have those concerns about egress in and out of their subdivision, concerns about where their children are getting on and off of the bus, and they've received notice that this construction is to be ongoing until December. And this information is obtained through a letter that was issued to residents, but I wanted to provide our Public Works team an opportunity maybe to dispel any of those myths or any of that conjecture between when they received the letter and now, and maybe some of the benchmarks for the project moving forward, if you'd be able to indulge me, please.
Any other business? If not, we will move on to our next, sorry? Jason, I forgot you guys. Sorry, go ahead. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Councillor Rabbits. I don't have all the details in front of me on the Holden Ave. I can say that I have also heard a number of concerns from residents in the area surrounding the buses getting in and out, surrounding cars being able to safely get through the site. I can say that our project manager has been working with the contractor to try and alleviate some of these concerns. I don't have the specifics on the bus issue per se. Unfortunately, some of the issues were relating to silt in the water lines and that kind of stuff. These things do sometimes happen with big reconstruction jobs. We do appreciate the residents' patience and understanding as we try to get through some of this. It's not an easy task, especially with some of these freak storms that we've had come through that have dumped multiple inches of water into a construction site, which, we have big excavations. It definitely poses a challenge to them. All that being said, I will provide you with a more thorough update on where exactly things are at, but I can assure you at this point that the date of December, from my understanding, is still the projected timeline for completion of that project.
Thank you for that update, Mr. Godby. And just for the viewing public at home, there is a couple phone numbers you could call if you have a concern. Our dedicated Public Works team may be reached at 1-877-298-5888. Morley Contracting Limited, they can be reached at phone number 519-752-3316. And if you have a concern with the way that the contractors are operating, or if you had a suggestion for a Public Works team, they'd be more than receptive for you to give them a phone call. Thank you.
Anybody else there that wants? Go ahead. More?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Just in follow-up to those phone numbers, I believe the one that was perhaps missing from there was our Public Works office in Delhi, 519-582-2100. And any one of the staff there would be glad to direct your call to the project manager or someone in engineering to talk to you.
Okay. Nothing? No? I don't know the lady's name, I'm sorry. No? yourself. I have you here if you want to say a few words.
Maybe just a quick thank you for the warm welcome I've received from the members of council and staff here in Norfolk County. It's been a great opportunity. I'm still on orientation, my first week here, just tracking into my second week, but you've got a great vision. I've had an opportunity to look at some of the documents, strategic plan. Hope to support this council and this community and the staff here to move things forward in a very positive way. So thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to serving this council and this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody left? No? Okay. Well, then we will move on. We are going to go into closed session. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the following? That council move into council session at 6:45. That's what I see. Pursuit of Section 239(2)B and C of the Municipal Act 2001, RSO 2001, C25, as the subject matter pertains to personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, and to proceed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality of the local board. Any discussion on that? If not, I need a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Rabbit and trailer, all those in favor? Okay, we're on. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder for the following, that report sorry?
We have to reconvene first.
Oh, we got to reconvene. Yes, we need to reconvene. All those in favor? I guess I should have had a mover and a sign. Sorry. 1, 2. All those in favor? Yes. Taylor and Rabbits were the movers. And okay. Can I have a mover and seconder for the following? That report DCS 1989, appointment of the Alligator Tug Advisory Committee members be received as information, and that George Freeman be appointed for a term effective immediately until November the 30th, 2022. Is there any discussion? Councillor Van Passen. Sorry? Move? Go ahead. Seconder? All those in favor? I have Van Passen and Michele. So what's the next one? You want to do that one?
Through the chair, essentially, committee is just receiving the last 3 items for information. So if committee desires, we could get a mover and a seconder for the following, that closed session items B, C, and D be received as information.
Councillor Tyler and Councillor Mayor Chop. All those in favor? That is carried. I think that's the end of it. Can I have a mover and seconder to adjourn council and committee meeting of September 3rd, 2019 at 7:45 p.m. Discussion? All those in favor? Why, sorry, I need a mover. Amy and Taylor, okay, we're done. Thank you very much. Now you can go home and get rid of me.